Hello, everyone.
Good evening,
How
everyone.
are you? How is everyone doing this third day of what is it, Women's History Month,
Yeah, that's what we hear.
right?
Yeah, it's Women's History Month, but it's still
So
Black
this is
History Month because remember, every month is Black History Month, so that's not over. But we've just moved into another celebration that's on top of
and
ours
and
simultaneously.
Jojo is calling it what?
Black Women's History Month, actually. So happy
There
Black
you go.
Women's History Month. And as usual, if my gaze is down and now today to the side, it's because I am looking for your comments. So please chat with us, comment. We'll respond to you either on camera or directly in the room.
Exactly. So as usual, before we get started, we will please have a very brief moment of silence for our loved ones that we have lost. As we know, we're over 500,000 souls lost in this pandemic. Shouldn't have happened, but here we are. So give us a brief moment of silence. All right. So I am Fatmata, one of your admins.
And I'm Jojo Barron, another one of your admins.
And she has the green lipstick tonight.
Yes. Every week we're going to do a different crazy lipstick. Last week was black, this week is green. Who knows what it'll be next week? But it'll
And,
match my shirt. I'll make sure it matches my shirt.
and Women's History Month, although woman has a right to her choices every day, it's especially during Black Women History.
That's right. Black Women's History Month. That's right.
So that's the new one.
we'll,
Okay.
we'll be trademarking that.
Good
But
luck.
at minimum, here in Black Diaspora Voices, I mean, every month is Black History Month. Every day, Black history is being made. But particularly this month, we're going to focus on the achievements and great things that Black women have done in the United States and throughout the diaspora. So not just America, but internationally as well. And if you have articles that you're finding about Black women that have done great things, please post them, share with us, because we want to know.
So today we are just going to have a chit chat, right? It's going
Yeah.
to be, we're going to start off basically talking about what this month is, Women's History Month, and kind of how it started. So we did a little bit of our own research, like you kind of know things, but it doesn't really stick with you if you're not really paying attention. So what we know is that Women's History Month started officially 1987, officially. But I think like in 1911 or something like that, they had Women's Day. And that was, that's on March 8th because of the march that women did. And it's an International Women's Day. So it's recognized by the UN, it's recognized by the UK, the US, um, Canada, I think.
Yes.
So, and Russia, is it Russia?
I mean, the march that happened was in Russia, and women were brutalized that day. They were there marching for their equal rights, and you know, things got a little ugly. And so that's why we mark March 8th as International Women's Month or
Day.
International Women's Day
Mhm.
because of that particular incident. But
Mm.
the UN actually established it as Women's History Day, or I'm getting it wrong again. International Women's Day it was actually formally marked by the UN. So I mean, whoever's a member of the UN is likely recognizing it, and you're supposed to wear red on that day. My favorite color.
One of my favorite colors. Nice. Okay. cool. On the 8th. Okay, cool. Sounds good. But as we know, history always sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it's written a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and some things sometimes are left out.
Few things.
Just a few things. So in that little summary that we just did, what was missing, Joe?
Hmm. It could be the racist part. Just a little bit of the racist part. Now, we're not trying to focus on the negative, because I tend to do that at times, and I do it with through jokes and what have you. But the reality is, the main woman suffrage that suffragists that we're familiar with in America is Susan B. Anthony. And she wasn't the most pleasant person in the world when it came to Black women, and including Black women in the fight for voting equality in this country. In fact, she appealed to white supremacists in an attempt to win the vote, win a women's right and the ability to vote in this country. So, I mean, without harping too much on that, we have to remember that racism and anti-Blackness is in the very fabric of this country. When you hear people say, I can't believe this is happening, this is not the country that I know, unfortunately, it is the country that you've been living in your entire life. It is the country that many of us were born in. And for many who have not encountered racism of any kind, this is your country. Your country was built on racism and continue to use racism as a tool to bolster the rights of other folks. We were not contemplated in anything when in regards to having a participation in government or anything of that nature. But here we are, and we're going to force our way through. We're going to continue to ram our way through all these systems. And here we have a country, Fatmata, where
we have our very first Black female woman vice president.
yay,
And overly qualified for that position,
quite frankly.
And we've come such a long way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides having her there, we have people like Serena Williams, who is the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
The GOAT. Fight me. She's the GOAT. It doesn't matter
I love some Naomi Osaka, but the GOAT, we're talking about the GOAT here.
The GOAT, Serena Williams.
The greatest of all time.
And not for tennis, not for a woman, just the GOAT.
Listen, she won a championship with a whole human cooking in her belly. So until a male athlete can come to me and say that they had they were pregnant and won a championship event, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. LeBron James, I know people are saying that he's the greatest of all time. They throw out names like Michael Jordan and things. No, sorry. And you know what? Simone Biles, I think might be number 2. Ahead of all those names that we think of. But Simone is the most decorated Olympian, probably.
Most.
I mean, and they have to disqualify or take points away from some of the most difficult things that she's able to do because the other girls can't do it. They have to decrease, things that she's outstanding in. I mean, these moves, I can't even name them. But Simone.
But the moves are now called Simone Biles moves, I think.
Okay.
Like, literally now, because they had no choice. Think about it. So who else has moves that she created in a sport?
Mm-hmm.
She created it in a sport.
Yep.
It's named after her.
Yep.
So, I mean, the woman. So,
I mean, so women are leading, women are, and not just other women, but they are leading all of us.
Yeah.
Get into it. I mean, the bottom line is that's just who we are. We are great. Our greatness is there in front of all of us. And oftentimes, even like let's think about the civil rights movement. When we think of civil rights, there are certain names that boom pop into your head immediately. Who pops into your head immediately when you say civil rights, Fatmata?
Martin Luther King Jr.,
Malcolm X,
Malcolm X. There you go.
Nelson Mandela. You know, there are just certain folks internationally and in the U.S. we think of when we think of human rights, civil rights, things of that nature. But why is it Winnie Mandela didn't come up? Why is it Betty Shabazz? Why is it Coretta Scott King isn't the name that pops into our head? I mean, the Black Panther movement, a lot of that, it was fueled by the women behind the scenes, but Huey Newton is the name that we know. I mean, that's the name that boom immediately pops into my head when I think Black Panther. But I
I mean,
mean,
heck, we even did I don't know if you remember, we did his case in law school.
we sure did.
We did his case in law school.
Yeah.
The what was it? Walking while sleep or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
the defense was that whatever he did, he wasn't even aware because he
Yep.
was sleeping.
Sleepwalking. Yep. Yep. Yep.
I think that was it, right? So we even did his case
Yeah.
in criminal law, first year of law school, Huey Newton's case.
And I'm kind of embarrassed that with Angela Davis. Okay, boom. But look how long it took me to name the woman, you know, that was, we can say, at the forefront of this. I mean, she sacrificed
Yeah.
herself, her ability to live in her country for this movement. And, you know, it's not a name that flows off the tongue immediately and comes to mind first, but instrumental in making these movements what they were. I mean, we were talking about this in the Black church, Fatmata. I
Mhm.
mean, who is fueling, who is running, who is the face of these Black churches, but who is really behind the scenes pushing and getting everything organized and putting the agendas together and just making sure everything is organized behind the scenes. Um, Everything you think about in every facet. I mean, even in corporations, if you think about who's really running things, the CEO or their executive assistant, who's often a woman. I mean, I know that we go on, we're going to go on and on and on. We are two women, we are two strong Black women, so we have a particular perspective, particularly for this group. And I have no problems that we are going to center this group around women and strong women. We started this group as a group focused on Kamala Harris as the candidate more so than Biden. So from that standpoint, understand this is the perspective that Fatmata and I are coming from. We're always going to come from. We're always going to put Black women and center Black women in this group. And we make no apologies for that at all whatsoever.
I mean,
At all.
the name is Black Diaspora Voices, so it's self-explanatory,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Is our purpose. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with lifting your own voice because
Absolutely.
Black people, right? So lifting your own voice should be a given in any community whatsoever. And especially for us, being that our voices have been muted for so long.
Hmm.
And we were not given a voice, we're not given a seat at the table. So we have to create it for ourselves. And
What's the saying? If they don't give you a seat, bring a folding chair.
bring your own chair or something.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we've had to do consistently. And if you see the mobilization of Black women on behalf of this administration, really, who are we working for? I mean, we worked.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we are going to spend this month highlighting many Black women who have been leaders um, here and internationally. So if
Mhm.
you have any names that you think we should be aware of, DM us. Let us know who these people are, so we can know about them and make sure that the rest of the group knows about these people because it's important, right? But we're only focusing on women this month, only Black women from around the world. Okay. And because that's what we, it's Women's History Month and we are owning it.
Black Women's History Month.
Black Women's History Month. Poor JoJo.
What? I mean, we're centering us at all times.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So we know that women have been the backbone, right? They always say the woman makes the home. And we birth the nation. And that's just reality.
Literally and figuratively.
And so I think this month, besides just highlighting women who have made an impact, Jojo, I think we should also talk about some of the struggles women face and some of the disadvantages and ways to combat those disadvantages, and ways to get over the hurdle that we have, because we have a lot.
We have quite a bit.
You have as a woman, and then as a Black woman, and for some of us as an immigrant woman, and for some of us again as a Muslim immigrant Black woman. So it's like
hurdle after hurdle. But we're not complaining. We are not complaining. We're stating the obvious.
Yes.
And we're having a discussion about how to work through those issues. And actually, this is a discussion we're going to continue to have over and over. It's not going to just start today and end today. We are a group that will continue to have this discussion, but everything Fatmata just listed is the reality for many of us.
Because we know, right? We've seen studies. We know that when you apply for a job, even if you're qualified, if your name has a sounding of a Black person, I mean, they've done studies. They've sent resumes of the same identical resumes to the same companies. The only thing they changed were the names. You remove Shalonda and you put Jennifer or something, and Jennifer gets all the calls. Shalonda doesn't get a call. And it's been done over and over. And it's just a fact. It's not about complaining. It's not, sometimes I feel like if you tell the truth and you speak truth to power about what is actually happening, if you're speaking it on your own behalf, you're complaining. But if somebody else who doesn't look like you is speaking about your issue, all of a sudden it becomes validated. Can I not speak about my issue and tell you how it's affecting me without having somebody else advocate for me? Can I advocate for myself? Like, can I just say that what you're doing is harming me in so-and-so way? Why do I need somebody to come and do it for me, for you to accept it and not tell me I'm complaining?
And again, it's the reality of living in America, or just in this world, with all of those descriptors. We're not complaining, but we're saying this is what the reality is, and this is why we have a group, Black Diaspora Voices, but as two Black women, we're going to have these discussions, because these discussions may not be happening any place else, and then nowhere else they might not be having these discussions anywhere else in a nuanced way, in a way that is solution oriented. I mean, and that's what we're seeking to do. Today's an introduction to what we're looking to do moving forward. But everything that you mentioned, Fatmata, is absolutely correct. And what we have to deal with, sometimes we have to deal with this in our own communities. Within our own communities, we have people that will look at our resume, receive it. And who saw that TikTok? I think it was a TikTok that came out last week. It was a woman. She was wearing a bonnet. She had fluttering eyelashes. It was hilarious how she presented herself. And had the audacity to go on camera, this is a Black woman, mind you, and say, if you have a Black sounding name, you should take the first initial and then, use your middle name if it's white sounding, and then your last name, and use that. Because if it comes to me, if it comes to her, a Black woman, a Black woman will also reject your resume.
And she's in HR, right? She's in
HR. She is in HR, the person who is receiving the resumes in that department. And so we are also hurting each other by, really taking on this idea that, sounding too Black is a detriment to the person, and then not even giving that person a chance. So, it would have been better if that person that says, incidentally, that's what they do when they get your resume. But when it comes to my desk, I'm letting you in. But these are just some things, maybe some tips to help you. But if it comes to me, she didn't say that. This Black woman also rejects the resume. And I want us to be aware of that. When we see these things happening, whatever this is just one example, having a seat at the table, we do not then continue the behavior that has been hurting our community. We're there at the table in an attempt to change, and whatever sacrifices we have to make, it is in service to bettering all of us. Why should we take on the whole community and strap it on every time we're the one person in the room? I don't know. I'm sorry, but that's our fight. Until we have equality, until we have equity, that's the fight. We that's our fight. We strap it on, go into the room, and we do what we need to do for the community. Until then,
fair or not fair is our reality.
Yes.
So you live within your reality, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can say, well, I'm not doing that, but I bet you every time they say a shooting happened, I bet you many of us are saying, please don't let it be a Black person. Please let it be. Because
I'm on pins and needles until we see the person's face.
Because the reality is that's the world we live in right now. So you live within the system you're in and work within that system to make things better. So, it's about having awareness and being honest about where you are and figuring out how to work within that. And I think that's what Black Diaspora Voices is going to be about. It's about all of us coming together to figure out how we can work within the system that we find ourselves in. And not be so worried about whether we make it comfortable for other people, right? So as Black people,
I think that's a big issue for us. We want to make everyone comfortable.
And I think we spend a lot of energy on that, and that's just a Black people thing. I really think that's just, and I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's because, I don't know why, but we literally, it doesn't matter where we're from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we were born here, whether we are descendants of enslaved people in this country, or Africans coming in. It doesn't seem to matter. We want to embrace people. We want people to feel safe and comfortable within our sphere. And many times it's just people who don't care whether we're comfortable, whether we are safe, whether our voices are heard. We tend to always say, try to be more balanced, try to be more fair. We don't want to just talk about our stuff. Yes, we actually do, because right now we don't have equity. And until you have equity and you're on a equal playing field, that's what you need. You need to amplify your own voice like everybody else does. And I don't think there's anything wrong with communities amplifying their voice. I think it's a sad thing, even within the Black community. When we look at other communities and be like, they're always there. They're always like, why are you mad? Don't be mad because they're always there. Don't be mad because they're advocating for themselves and they're fighting for themselves. themselves. That's what you're supposed to do. You advocate for you and your community, and you fight for you and your community for your betterment so that your kids can have something better.
Should be
And
looking at them as an example.
huh?
We should be looking to those communities as an example and not criticize them for it, because the advancements they're making are to the benefit of their communities while we're sitting here judging them for the advancements, you know?
Let them advance, but learn how they advance and make it
Yeah,
fit your community.
yeah,
It's sort of the whole thing of don't hate someone because they're doing better.
yeah,
Do what
yeah.
they're doing and try to emulate it to the best
Hmm.
of your ability that works,
Exactly,
but to
exactly.
fit you. Be happy for them. It make things so much easier. You know, of course, don't be, I'm not saying be happy that somebody's progressing at your expense,
Yeah,
at your community's expense, as they're trying to bring you down. But
that's different. That's
you know,
different. Yeah.
if their focus is just lifting themselves up, let them
Hmm.
lift themselves up.
Hmm.
See
Hmm.
how they're doing it. If it works, use it.
Yep. An example that I'm personally familiar with, when you say that we try to make other communities comfortable, is I've often gone to banquets and events that are sponsored by Haitian organizations. And without fail, those events take place in English.
Mm,
And my question is, and I asked the question, why is everything in English? This is a Haitian organization. Why are we not doing this in Creole, French, some mixture of the two? And the response to me was, well, there are people here who don't speak Creole. And my retort to that was, and who cares? Because I've gone to events that were sponsored by Hispanic organizations, and guess what language they spoke primarily throughout the entire event, like 90% of it. And they were happy to engage with the audience in Spanish, even, not really aware or caring. It wasn't their issue whether or not we understood. This is who they are. This is their culture. The organization is of a particular nationality, and they speak a particular language, and they're going to enjoy that at their event. On the
mhm,
other hand, these Haitian organizations that I've attended their events, they decided that they were going to appeal to or make people comfortable so that everyone could understand. But in the end, they, because of language barriers, even within themselves, it wasn't as polished as it could have been if they had just stuck to their own home language. And it just drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely nuts to see and hear that, because we should be proud of who we are. We should be
mhm.
proud to speak our language in public around whoever is there. But instead, we're looking to not really hide, but I guess assimilate a little more. And that idea of assimilation is very, very dangerous. But that's another topic for the danger of losing our language and losing our culture, to be this what is it, blended, um what is the what did we used to call America? It was a melting pot. We used to be a melting pot, when really we should be viewed as a salad or a tapestry, where all these different rags sewn together to make a beautiful quilt. Instead, we are absorbing and really taking in this idea of being a melting pot, and we are losing what made us unique and made us good and made us, different and
Mhm. So,
spicy, and that's problematic.
uh, perfect analogy, and I've stolen this from our former county executive out here,
Hmm.
Ike Leggett.
Okay.
So he was talking about the county or Silver Spring where I live. I can't remember whether he was talking about the county as a whole or Silver Spring, because he was in Silver Spring that I heard him the first time he made that speech. Because he's from Louisiana,
Hmm.
right? So he makes it as where like the county or the area is like gumbo,
Hmm.
right? So you have all these amazing things in this gumbo, and it tastes so great together.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
each thing, the shrimp, the
Turkey sausage.
every, turkey sausage for me. Each one maintains its own unique flavor. But
Yes.
together, it is so good. And there's nothing wrong with that. It
Yeah.
is perfect. That analogy I've always kept with me. He probably doesn't know that I've stolen it. I use it everywhere. and since and since I'm sure he's not watching this, he still doesn't know
Okay.
that I'm stealing his analogy. But I love that, and I use it all so often because I think it just really speaks to what we should be, to what we and easily to be. And I love it. But I just noticed Gail put a question.
Yeah.
How do I explain to white people at work that Black and lower socioeconomic status are not the same demographic and not interchangeable? That is a good question.
Hey, Gail. Gail just
That,
happens to be a friend of mine from high school. Hey, girl. Hey.
that's a really good question because the thing is, the thing is, you even see it in the media, right? Um, it's almost as if she's right. It's almost as if when you say Black, it means lower social.
They assume that it is the same thing. I mean, the mental image that comes to mind when you think lower socioeconomic immediately is a Black person, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Granted, statistically, let's be real.
Yes.
The wealth gap is huge.
Yes.
And we know why that is. We started a conversation about redlining and all those things, not giving people mortgages early on, while white people were building wealth. Black people were denied the ability to do that, from bank loans to mortgages from the federal government. It wasn't just private entities that won't give it to you. It was the government,
the federal government,
too, that was preventing you from growing and building and leaving something for your children while they were building the white community and allowing them to grow and be strong. So all that had laid the foundation. And I think when you're talking to people who the first thing they think about is to also remind people that statistically, government aid goes to rural white America in great amounts. So Black doesn't equal necessarily poor, right? You can come from any community and be poor. I mean, in Florida, we have the trailer parks. A majority of the people who live in trailer parks are white people, at least in Florida, right? Growing up.
Primarily.
Primarily. So not that you don't have any, but
right.
Primarily. But we don't really talk about trailer parks when we talk about the poor. We talk about inner cities. You don't really talk about the violence that happens in trailer parks because it happens,
and in rural communities throughout this country.
We grew up down there, so you know it, but you don't see it unless you've lived in there to see it and hear it. Like I went to high school with some of these white students, experience the same things you hear on TV about Black inner city kids: the hunger, the domestic violence, the gun issues with gun violence.
Yeah.
Though they've all been there, and
everything that you just ticked off just now, in my mind, someone who is quote unquote woke, I consider myself a little, I read a little bit. So in my mind, each thing you ticked off, I see the inner city, but in reality, white communities have experienced, lower socioeconomic white communities have experienced that almost at an equal rate. Because why? People who live close to each other tend to, commit crimes against each other. So, nothing that you just named is something that is unique to Black lower income communities. It is something that is, endemic of, communities where there are any kind of economic issues. But
Right.
to Gail's point, how do you talk to someone at work and tell them they're not interchangeable? And I think there needs to be a regular conversation with that person, whoever they may be. And unfortunately, facts have to come with it. You have to break it down. I mean, the New Deal had all these safety nets, government safety nets, but didn't contemplate having one Black person included in receiving that check. But then here you have Ronald Reagan in the 80s come through talking about the welfare moms, and so immediately you have this image of a Black woman with 10 children, but the entitlements that he was railing against was primarily being collected by white folks that supported him, and the white folks who support him were cheering him on. Probably the same people collecting those entitlements that Reagan was railing against and vilifying Black women for collecting. It's utterly amazing, but it's a matter of having conversations on a regular basis that are calm, fact-based. Clearly not with me in the room, because I'll curse and go off. But that's unfortunately me. But you just have to have these conversations, because just one conversation is not going to fix this person's long-held misinformed view of the overlap of race and lower socioeconomic status.
Right. And there's studies on that, right? So there's studies that actually talk about the fact that the rate of crime in any community is directly linked to the socioeconomic status of that community. So that's why you can find crimes, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's burglary, whatever it is, you can find it in low income white communities as you do in low income Black communities. That's why, because it's directly linked. But because the reality, the Black community has a higher poverty rate, you're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
And that's our reality. And it's all a domino effect. So when you talk to these people, Gail, you can very calmly, and it's easy, really, you can find a little thing on Google and do a screenshot of a chart that would tell you. Maybe I'll try to look up something and post it on there, and you can just pop it out, like we had before created a card for immigrants when Trump was in office, because they were just picking people up left and right, to where the card tells you what you should and shouldn't say.
Yeah.
And that card can give you numbers of who is who, and that person then will have to be the one to disabuse themselves of it. But the reality is, if a person has grown up with that idea, that thought process, unless they're willing to really listen, and really learn, and they're not just making these statements to validate themselves, I doubt there's really much you can do. You can state it and then move on, because the fact is, people have been indoctrinated and raised a certain way. This, like I commented on a friend's post today about Dr. Seuss. Right?
What a mess.
So you have these conservative media folks, with all that's happening around the country, people dying and people losing jobs. The only
Texas reopening, dropping mask mandates. What is wrong with y'all?
Mississippi reopening with no running water.
Oh.
Okay, so with all that happening, what is the conservative media focused on? They're focused on the canceling culture because of the fact that the publisher themselves decided to pull these books because of their racist content. And what people fail to realize is those kid books, what people have been teaching their children.
Yep.
So people have been growing up on this stuff from generation to generation.
Planting it in fertile minds.
Just growing and growing and growing. And by the time they're adults, you think it just came out of nowhere.
They're working with Gail, talking about Black folks in lower socioeconomic are the same. That's what we have. That's the outgrowth of that. And we don't realize how important it is to make sure the messages that we send out to kids starting at an early age are that of healthy, non-toxic, non-misogynistic, non-sexist, all eliminate all those isms from what we teach these kids when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years old, and we'll have healthier adults. We'll have a healthier world. But it is what it is. We're going off on a lot of topics today. Geez, what is today's subject? Geez. I know we start off with Black Women's History Month. Happy Black Women's History Month.
Yeah, Black Women History Month. You're gonna try to own that thing, aren't you?
No, listen, we're gonna trademark it. Nobody use it except us. Or if you use it, you'll have to pay us a nice little hefty fee. But yes, happy Black Women's History Month.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we wanted to have a lively conversation, basically surrounding lifting Black voices, surrounding elevating Black women, and just having a conversation.
That's right. Okay.
Just having a conversation about where we've been, where we are now, and what we need to do to move forward and continue to build and be stronger and continue to progress, right? Because reality as Black people, no matter where you go at any corner of the globe, there's anti-Blackness. And so that would be a different conversation and topic. We don't want to start.
Oh yeah, that anti-Blackness. Look out for that. We're gonna have a great show on that on Fatmata's channel, and that live is gonna be absolutely awesome. We're not doing it here because we're gonna have a few different voices and just a few different things that we'll have going on. But you'll see a couple of familiar faces, me and Fatmata. But I'll be quiet because sometimes I get in trouble after these lives are over for saying too much. But you know what, Fatmata, something I wanted to go back to.
Don't listen to that.
When with Gail's question, I'm tired of trying to win over hearts and minds. I'm done with that. That's over. I don't care if I worked at, I can say I don't care because I don't work at Gail's office. I work in my house by myself. I mind my business. I do what I do, and I call it a day. Nobody bothers me. But if I worked in an office where people were telling me they believed Black folk, depending on what we do for a living, because Gail, I know what you do, and I won't put your business out on the street. So that conversation is actually important for Gail to have. But if we are just everyday workers, doing our thing, we need to make sure that we are not trying to expend energy on people who will never, ever, ever change their heart and mind. We work on people who are on our team and keep them solid and make sure we are all on the same page with messaging. We may on that side not agree. Fatmata and I had a little disagreement earlier today, but guess what? Ultimately, we're on the same team, moving in the same direction, looking for the same goal. So her and I can have a discussion about something we don't agree on, because our goal ultimately is to, the finish line is at the same location, and we're just trying to figure out how we're going to get there together. But if it's some, nutcase, Candace Owens type person, you don't mess with them. You don't bother with them. You don't waste your energy. Let them, talk about cancel culture. Let them do whatever they're going to do over there. They are the kings and queens of stealing the narrative on anything. And I think that might be a GOP ploy. Let's jump on that and steer people's attention away from Texas, getting rid of that mandate, and Mississippi. Y'all got no water there, no running water. You got to boil all your water, but yet here we are, getting rid of the mask mandate. So having said all that, my usual tirade, I no longer give a darn about bringing people to my side and winning over hearts and minds. My goal exclusively is making sure my team is solid. We have to make sure we're on the same page and we're all together. And even if we disagree, we work together and figure out how to stay working together.
Mm-hmm. And that's the key, and that's all we can do. And I totally agree. And that's where we are. You can agree to disagree, but you have the right goal, and you're gonna get there. It's just how you get there, right?
Mm-hmm. Ultimately
is how you get there.
And we get there together.
Exactly.
We're not gonna get in two different cars and think it's gonna work, because we're wasting gas. We're wasting energy. We could have used one car, and split resources, all under the same roof.
And protect the environment.
And protect the environment, yes. And listen, we need to have an environmental discussion, Fatmata, in this page, because environmental issue is a Black issue. We are suffering the most from people ignoring climate change, and it is infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. And if Texas and Mississippi aren't two clear examples of that, where we have high numbers of people of color in those states and are suffering the most. But again, another show, another day.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And
Wait,
Jojo, she likes to end the show.
I thought you were gonna forget. Sorry. Go ahead.
I would never forget your favorite part of the show. This is her favorite part of the show. So Jojo.
Okay, Fatmata, tell me something great that happened in the last week.
Something really great that happened today was a surprise. So my auntie called me. Hey, and I picked up the phone and I'm like, "Hi, Auntie Uma." She's like, "Hey, baby." I said, "How are you?" She said, "Good." She said, "Come to the window." So I ran to the window and she was in her car waving, because we haven't seen each other in so long because of COVID. She just wanted to say hi. She just got off work and she stopped by just to see me and wave and give me kisses and blow me kisses. My auntie. She's the best. When I had my surgery, she almost moved into the house. So she took care of me. She's great.
And that's the worst part of this, all this COVID stuff, is the isolation, and I hope we are all taking care of ourselves. Doing whatever we can, reaching out, having Zoom parties, just please don't let quarantine depression get to you. And if it is getting to you, please reach out to somebody, because I know firsthand, someone who suffers from depression, me. I know that this quarantine has been very, very difficult, but I have a great network of friends who have allowed me to, bother them with Zoom parties and phone calls and text. And so please, please, please reach out.
So what was wonderful about your week, JoJo?
Well, let me just say that let's just say it's good and bad. I have a lot of health issues. The laundry list, it's a laundry list of issues, but because of that laundry list of issues, I'll probably be able to get my COVID vaccination tomorrow instead of in a year. So I'm happy about that. I'll be getting it tomorrow because, of all my health issues. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm happy. I'm going to continue wearing a mask though, but I'll be able at least now to circulate a little more without having anxiety. So I'm excited about that. Next time you see me, I'll be vaccinated. Yay!
You had your first shot.
Well, Johnson and Johnson is down here, so I'm hoping.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I'm hoping there's enough Johnson and Johnson where I go tomorrow, because they're gonna have both. They're gonna have both options. So I want the Johnson and Johnson, because one shot and we're done. But I'll take whatever y'all give me. I'm not gonna be too. Oh no,
I know.
I don't want 2 shots. You crazy? You give me whatever you got.
I know that.
Yeah.
So great. I'm happy about that. I'm really happy about that. Then you can start going to your Pilates stuff.
Yes. And that'll be the next thing I'll be happy about. I'll be able to go to Pilates and things will be working out a little bit better for me because let me tell you, my laundry list, it's been interesting.
I can't. You know what? The first thing I'm going to do?
Yep.
Go to Lily to get my nails done.
You listen.
My feet.
Before, I'm not going to show you my feet, people. But before I go to Pilates, I'm getting a mani-pedi. Fatmata, you right. Because my feet are dying for some TLC. Oh my goodness gracious. So before Pilates, mani-pedi.
I used to be so great at doing my own nails.
Yeah.
But she got me lazy because I've been going to her now continuously for the last couple of years. I've been trying to be really good and take care and have somebody else take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
She spoiled me. So,
Fatmata, do you have no nails? What's going on?
Right? Like I've been cutting them.
Oh, folks, Fatmata normally has beautiful, long, manicured nails. So I'm looking at my screen right now and thinking, whose hands are that on the screen? I'm not familiar.
I've been cutting them. So I may start back growing them. I think I'll start back shaping them and growing them because that's the only way they grow if you shape them and keep them,
Yeah.
But so people, we wanted to end it with a beautiful note.
Always.
So we want to thank you for allowing us into, 15 minutes of your time, of your life. And we really appreciate that you giving us an audience and you're listening to us. But we also want to listen to you. We want to listen to you. We want to hear from you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Gail, for the question. And if anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions of what we should talk about, please let us know because it's really important that we meet your needs. That's why we have this page.
You know what, Fatmata? Somebody might get a Zoom link sent to them.
Oh.
So make sure your hair and everything is on point. Get rid of the bonnet during our show because you might be getting a Zoom link and brought on to have a little discussion on whatever question you have.
A little impromptu chit chat. We did that to Momo.
We sure did, didn't we? That was fun. That was real fun.
So watch out now. Whoever you are, we don't know who you are yet. But whoever you are, be ready. Okay? All right, everybody. You all have a very good night and a good week. And we will see you digitally with posts and conversations online for the rest of the week. Okay? Everybody have a good night.
And we'll be back here live for another fireside chat next Wednesday at 8:00. So please join us. We will be here every week. We're going to make sure we're not doing the every other week anymore. At least Fatmata and I and Tamika will be joining us periodically, but she's with us in as an admin in the chat. So in the group. So the three of us somehow, some way will be here every Wednesday.
And join us on IG, Twitter.
Yes. I'm going to post those links. Oh, and guess what? These get a little long. We're going to make a podcast of this show so that you could just play it in the car, play it on your iPhone, and you'll be able to take us to work with you and hear our voices there.
Or clean the house.
Yeah.
You want to hear our voices in your ear as you're cleaning,
Yep. So thank you all for joining us and, allowing us to talk to you and talk your ears off and and indulging us and allowing us to have these conversations with you every week. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a very, very good and blessed night.
Good night.